Hi everyone. Have you ever been wanting to maybe lane change and you see maybe a gap coming up and you put a signal on, and do people close that space down? It's something that unfortunately we're seeing more and more of on today's roads. We're going to have a look at it today. This actual clip has inspired me to do this video, so big thanks to the van driver who's coming up on our right hand side. It's from about here that you can start seeing the obstruction of the red lorry up in lane 1, so I've matched my speed with the silver one and signalled, and as soon as I do, the van starts closing the space down. His reaction is also priceless. And the really sad thing is, I'm only going to be in lane 2 temporarily. I'll get out of his way in a moment. Watch him as he does go past wind his window down. Rather than planning up the road, he's planning what verbal abuse he can now dish out. Now this is actually something that has effects probably greater than people realise. What I'm talking about, even in just general driving where we have maybe 2 lanes merging into one, is this one of the reasons why people feel as though they've got to queue really early and don't use all the road space? Well, perhaps because they're scared of actually not being let into that space. Is there another aspect of maybe this is another subconscious reaction why people don't want to move back to the left lane on a motorway and they tend to do what we call middle lane hog? Is this because they know they're going to struggle getting back out because that many people close these spaces down? Good chance. Here's a slightly different situation where people often close space. Now my pupil was a little slow accelerating, but there's no way in the world that this bus driver should have been getting closer and closer and closer, coming up to the risk of these traffic lights, especially in the wet weather. I often find that drivers do this as a way of telling that other person off. In other words, look how much you've inconvenienced me. This bus driver had very little consideration for the learner driver and very little consideration for passengers. You imagine if my learner had jumped on the brakes if the lights had changed and the bus was that close. Just try and remember, people, that as risk increases, there's no way in the world that you should be catching the vehicle in front of you. Why do people actually close the space down as well? Well, it makes no sense to me. There are certain times that you do need to keep positive when maybe you have priority and a situation needs to be commanded, but people have sort of taken that way too far, and they use every opportunity to always barge their way through. You're in my lane, you're not coming in. And all it does, it interrupts the traffic flow for everyone. Here's an example in atrocious weather of how a good driver shares the road with all others around them. Excellent job by the white Nissan. That's how it should be done. I didn't even have to signal. That's great planning. Then they can get on with their journey if they want to overtake. These aren't the only places where this space closing actually happens. I've given a few examples in the clips that I've shown people, but mini roundabouts for me are the areas where this often happens, and you might very well take a good gap on a roundabout so you're inconveniencing no one who's coming from the right, which is what should happen. And then what will happen, someone will come from that right hand side, they'll see that you've emerged onto the roundabout, you're going round it, and they'll do everything they can to go quicker, close that space down, get on the horn, and even go across the roundabout to do it sometimes. And honestly, I think it's a sign of the times. I tend to find when occasionally I'll watch some dash cam footage on YouTube that it generally is the actual dash camera themselves who cause the problem. It's as if they're intent on getting that clip, and you see them press the record button as soon as they can. So this is unfortunately a sign of the times. All we can do is look at ourselves, make sure our driving is of the best quality we can possibly do, and just keep safe out there. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all soon.